What's up, YouTube? This is your girl, Megan. Welcome back to the Hood Astro Queen, to all of my returning subscribers. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, be sure to hit that subscribe button because you know you want to. And today I am coming to you guys once more with yet another celebrity birth chart reading, starting with Miss Lira Galore and Mr. Pierre P, whatever the fuck his last name is. Okay, I think it's Thomas. And Lira Galore is a very popular gold digger, for lack of a better word. I think she was a stripper at one point, and then she turned into like this industry thotty bopper, which I am not hating on, by the way, because those of you guys who have been with me and subscribed to my channel for a very long time know that I don't necessarily enjoy enforcing and upholding a lot of these patriarchal standards, and just like double standards, full on double standards that occur between men and women. And I feel like if men are going to use their bread and cheese to attract mice, don't get mad when the mice bite. Don't get mad when the birds come and they flock. You know what I mean? It's a mutual exchange. So if you're selling Kuda Cat and there's a guy willing to buy the Kuda Cat, like, you know, it sounds like a fair deal to me. However, nonetheless, she is very popular and has been very popular with a lot of these industry men because they date the same seven girls. I think she started off with Rick Ross. She dated Meek Mill. And by date, I mean fuck. But I think she actually had a relationship with Rick Ross at some point. She was on Ayanla Fix My Life, crying. Clearly, Ayanla is not that interested in fixing anyone's life. So she walked away still broken. And in broken fashion, she got with P, which, I mean, he's not attractive. He is actually the CEO or one of the CEOs of Quality Control. And they basically are like a label and they manage a lot of poppin' artists in Atlanta, like the Atlanta area. So me being from Atlanta, I'm very familiar with him. He's not cute, but his money is. So once again, it seems like a pretty even exchange, I guess. But she got pregnant. And around the time she got pregnant, he had like another chick pregnant at the same time, which, I mean, comes with the territory. The way I perceived it, she was securing her bag. Women have babies for checks every day, which, I mean, that's a different video for a different time. But yeah, so that's, I heard, she popped out a baby and now she's in the headlines because she's coming forth and she's telling people that throughout the duration of their relationship, P, Bell Pepper Nose P, gave her the beats. That's what she's saying, okay? She said he put the smack down on her while she was pregnant. And of course, people got upset, in which he actually retaliated and defended himself and released some text messages that were very condemning of her. Like, just talking about how she was sniffing coke during her pregnancy and it actually showed her to be the violent one. And it was just a whole lot of mess. So, Lira doesn't look too good at this point, and a lot of people are really judging her because she has some egg on her face, some serious egg on her face. But between her doing the cocaine, the alleged cocaine use during pregnancy, her having a pimp, he alleged that she had a pimp that she was hooking up with or collaborating with the entire time they were together. He alleged that she is just trying to shake him down for money, which is like feasible. That's not non-believable. And just a bunch of other things, right? And I'm just like, well, this will be a very interesting birth chart reading to do. And so here we are. And let's go ahead and get started. So Lira Galore was born on August the 31st, 1993 in Houston, Texas, making her a Virgo sun, Aquarius moon. Now, depending on exactly what time she was born, she could be a later degree Aquarius moon, an early degree Pisces moon. And based on what I personally have known of her, she gives me Pisces moon vibes, especially if, the substance abuse piece of the puzzle is true, because that could absolutely deal with a person or result in a person who relies heavily on substances and chemicals to escape from reality. It could also deal with a person who's a liar. And I do feel like she does have the tendency to lie. And I say that because her son's at the 7th degree of Virgo. That number 7 deals with lies, it deals with deception. It's governed by Neptune. Same thing with her lunar nodal placements. She's a Sagittarius, North Node, Gemini, South Node, both at the 7th degree. Okay. And particularly with her being a Gemini South Node, a lot of Gemini South Nodes are crafty. Very, very crafty. These are people who have a lot of karmic debt tied to deceiving others. These people using, because they have like this overly developed sense of mental capability. In this lifetime, they tend to use it for more bad than good, until they learn how to kind of detach themselves from it to a certain extent. So these people could spend a great deal of their lives, like I said, tricking people, swindling people. These could be smooth talkers, people who feel like they can talk their way out of any scenario, people who are very inclined to having dual agendas. Once again, that Gemini dealing with duplicity. A lot of these people do have duplicit natures. They can be two-faced. They can be people who portray themselves to be one thing or talk out of one side of their neck and then turn around and be a completely different way. These could be people who are straight up hustlers, people who are finessers, people who, like I said, the name of the game is about how slick you can be and how quick you can be. It could also deal with immoralities, and alternatively, that Sagittarian North Node could point towards where she has this karmic responsibility, so to speak, to be honest, live her truth, and kind of be whole. Because another thing I noticed, and this is just aside from my worldly observations of her, just based on her lunar nodal placements alone, she is a very troubled and scattered individual, because that's that Gemini South Node. It deals with where things are scattered, or a person is very fragmented in their identity, not really knowing who you are, kind of all over the place. And this is made even worse with her sun, which is at that 7th degree of Virgo, and then also her Mercury at the 9th degree of Virgo, squaring her nodes. And that could even point towards where she could even have some type of mental health issue, or some type of mental illness going on there. And it also does, like I said, with the influence of that number 7, kind of makes me feel like there could be some truth to the claims of, her snorting coke, you know what I'm saying? Or her being dependent upon some type of influences, drugs, alcohol, whatever the case may be. So she clearly has some issues here. She has some issues. With that Sagittarius North Node, she's supposed to make herself whole in this lifetime. And they could also point towards where she is kind of void of any like moral compass, where she could actually benefit from adhering to some type of faith system or belief system. I wouldn't be surprised if later on in life she was one of those people who turned to God or something, or, found Jesus or something like that. But whatever it takes to kind of help make you whole and get a fuller or a better understanding of yourself, so that you can kind of integrate all of those fragmented parts of your identity. That's what you need, or that's what she needs. So I can already tell off top, sis has some major issues. Her sun is conjoined to her Chiron, which is at the 29th degree of Leo. That 29th degree, that number 29, is the anaretic degree. So that alone can point towards a lot of crises and dramatic high points and low points in regards to men and children. And it could be issues that probably even started with the father, which is interesting because I do remember when she went on to Ayanla Fix My Life, they were talking about her dad, and I don't remember exactly what happened in the episode. So y'all feel free to drop down in the comment section and remind me. But something happened with her dad to where he came on the show, and long story short, he wasn't shit. So it did give some insight on where this pattern, I guess you could say, started, and that is very consistent with this aspect here. Okay. Chiron deals with your wounds, emotional wounds, psychological wounds, but it could also just very simply point towards area of just outright dysfunction. Okay, so her having these very dysfunctional relationships with men that started with the father, and even having some difficulty and a lot of karma surrounding children, which another one of the revelations that P made was she had like 5 abortions. And in the receipts that he displayed, which were text messages that she wrote herself, unless, they were photoshopped, but I don't think who knows? But point is, she admitted to having 5 abortions. Which, looking at her son, like I said, conjoined to Chiron, that could be a thing. Okay, it could be a thing. She also has her Chiron squaring Pluto at the 22nd degree of Scorpio, which that could be her having a lot of abortions as well. That could point towards a person who has a lot of abortions or who could have even experienced the death of a child. But Pluto also and Scorpio as well, also deals with surgical procedures. Do what you want with that. And then that 29th degree, that number 2 deals with the womb. So, I'm inclined to believe that's the truth based on her chart. So sis has a lot of issues. Also, I noticed that her Mars is at the 12th degree of Libra and is conjoined to her Jupiter at the 14th degree of Libra, which deals with her being a person who's not very good at taking accountability. Okay. And that's another reason why I feel like her being a Pisces moon would probably be more fitting. Like, I feel like she would be a Pisces moon because that's another huge character flaw of a lot of Pisces moons. There's this tendency to kind of like pass the buck when it comes to issues, or whenever you're being held accountable or placed in an uncomfortable situation, you kind of flee. Same thing with Mars in Libra. There's this tendency to kind of push on your problems and shortcomings onto other people and point the finger at other people. So you could look at that as her coming out against P, telling everybody, screaming to the mountaintops what he's doing this kind of expose of sorts, which could also be consistent with that Gemini South Node, because Gemini is the mouthpiece. So somebody who's popping off, yapping off, and it's like, okay, but you're not, girl, you didn't tell us your tea. Like, let's talk about you. We're not talking about him right now. We're talking about you. Mars conjoined to Jupiter in Libra can also create a person who is very well versed in legal matters, or, with Mars being the way that you fight, how defensive you are, right? Your defense system. These people could be very Libra Mars individuals. They can be very sue happy when it comes to people, and they can be people who have at least one major court case in their lifetime and subsequently are able to learn the ins and outs of like the legal system. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, I think that's what this whole thing is about anyway, like court, or if they have some type of court hearing coming up. But yeah, this is definitely consistent with that. Okay, this aspect can echo that situation. And with P's, not to jump too far ahead, his Saturn at the 2nd degree of Libra. So his Saturn is actually, just kidding. It's not conjoined to her Mars, but nonetheless, they're in the same sign. So, I would not be surprised at all if, they were to be entangled in a very lengthy court battle. Also, her Mars conjoined to Jupiter in Libra can deal with where she is very overly reliant on other people, overly dependent on other people, which for obvious reasons can pose a problem. A lot of her life centering around other people. It can also deal with where she is very, very relationship oriented, like where she's almost like slick obsessed with like having to be in a relationship, which does explain her jumping from like one, I guess you could say, high profile man or one man to the next to the next. Like it could create this hopeless romantic kind of person, you know what I mean? And once again, tying it back to that Gemini South node, a person who kind of spreads themselves too thin. And when it comes down to it, she has to learn how to be whole and complete. That's that Sagittarian North Node completion within herself, by herself. She has Uranus, which is at the 18th degree, conjoined to her Neptune at the 18th degree. So that's an exact conjunction. The number 18 can deal with materialism. And this aspect can point to where she wants to be taken care of. It reinforces that, her wanting to be taken care of. Her being somebody who is very concerned with status and what can be done for her, which is something that once again is no huge like revelation. Yeah, her Jupiter is squaring her Neptune. So like her looking to relationships to be like dependent upon. Same thing with her Mars squaring her Neptune. But that could also deal with or reinforce this theme of her having issues with substances. It could also point towards her dealing with men who are rather deceitful. That Mars squaring her Uranus could even point to where she feels entitled. Okay, she has a lot of feelings of entitlement when it comes to certain things. The same thing goes with her having her Saturn at the 26th degree of Aquarius. Her feeling like I am owed A, B, C, and D. And with her Saturn in opposition to her Chiron, this reinforces very like sudden ups, highs, lows, ups and downs in her relationships with men. An inability to have like a quote unquote normal relationship with men. Something being very artificial in a way about her relationship with men. And also, once again, difficulties in her relationship with, or lack thereof, children, or her mindset towards children. I don't feel like she's very emotionally connected. I'll tell you that, to her kid. I think that could definitely spell out some issues in the future, especially with her Sun conjoined to Chiron. She's going to have some issues or difficulties raising her daughter, whether it be her daughter having some type of illness or disability, or just a difficult time like within the relationship, them not getting along, them having a strained relationship as she grows into adulthood. Also, to take it back to her Sun squaring her nodes, I also meant to mention that could deal with her being involved with men who are very controlling, very, very controlling men, which is very consistent with certain things that I do see in P's chart as well, which we're going to jump to right now because I'm not trying to make this video too long, okay? P was born on June 7th, 1981. There goes that 7 again, in Atlanta, Georgia. He could be a liar himself with that number 7. Yeah, 7 dealing with, like I said, deception, lies. He's a Gemini sun with his sun at the 16th degree. Ooh, child. And he's a Leo moon. Now, men who have Leo moons do tend to attract women who are very abusive. I will say that. So his counter claims of her being abusive as well, that definitely checks out there. And I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he's a thought, with him being a Gemini, number one. But then also, number 2, I mean, his Mars, he's a Gemini Mars. It's at the 1st degree of Gemini. And these men could absolutely be very difficult to, I guess you could say, tie down, men who are very difficult to kind of It's not very easy for them to be just satisfied with one woman. They like lots of options because they can get very bored easily. And although with his sun being at the 16th degree, it's not forming an exact conjunction. Like, it's not conjoined to Libra South Node. However, it's still in the same sign as her South Node. Okay, she's a Gemini South Node. So just as a rule of thumb, like I tell all of my clients, when you're dealing with somebody who has the same sun sign as your South Node, you should steer clear, because these people represent an energy that is going to be taking you further away from your soul purpose, your karmic purpose in this lifetime. And that's exactly what this case is. Like, in a lot of these relationships go straight to hell in a handbasket. He's a Gemini moon. He's a Gemini sun. So he's all about that scattered and tattered life as far as laying it low and spreading it wide. Okay. So he's a man that's not easily able to be committed anyway. So there's that. Also, with that Leo moon, that could deal with him attracting women that are rather materialistic. His Venus is at the 2nd degree of Cancer. That right there in a man's chart can deal with him dealing with like a lot of gold diggers, but also being quite the womanizer as well. And his Venus is squaring his Saturn, which once again is at that 2nd degree of Libra. So I would not be surprised if she hits him up, like shakes him down for child support, or, if this is like a thing, even if it's coming from another baby mama as well, because he could definitely have a lot of issues tied to family court. And it also does reinforce this theme of him being very controlling and him being the type of guy who takes on who likes to yield a lot of responsibility or like authority over his partner, but it kind of backfires and it results in him backpacking a lot of the weight, carrying a lot of the weight in the relationship, which can feel very burdensome. And to double back to Lyra's chart with that Mars conjoined to Jupiter in Libra, that can deal with her even giving away a lot of her freedom, to be very like so much like a doormat in her relationships that she's restricting her own freedom in a lot of ways. So in certain respects, I feel like he's telling the truth. In certain respects, I feel like she's not necessarily lying, quote unquote, either. Because even when it comes to the physical abuse, Gemini is a mutable sign, and it's one of the most abusive signs in the zodiac, and it's prone to extreme violence. And even in P's chart with his sun and his Mars in the sign of Gemini, he could very well be abusive. Okay, he could have like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing going on, especially with that Mars in opposition to his Uranus. Jesus, oh my goodness. And his Uranus is at the 27th degree of Scorpio. Oh my goodness. And the number 27 breaks down to 9, and 9 is the number of fighting. Oh my goodness. This man is crazy. So no, Libra isn't lying about that. And he's a slut. I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that multiple truths can exist at once. His moon, given that this is his correct time of birth, could very well be squaring his Chiron at the 19th degree of Taurus, which could deal with him like objectifying women, viewing them as property, which is why he's so quick to like throw objects and stuff at women and then take them back when he feels like they don't deserve them, which she has or Lira has accused him of doing. His sun is in opposition to Neptune. Yeah, I feel like he has a lot of secrets. Period. Period. So it's just like I'm not sold on him being the good guy in the equation either. Yeah, his Pluto is forming a quincunx to his Chiron. His Pluto's at the 21st degree of Libra. Yeah, that reinforces this theme of him being like a tyrant. He could be a dictator in his relationships. He's a very controlling guy. Very controlling. His Mercury is conjoined to his Venus. That could be a full-blown sister-wife combination. Like, so that deals with his set of hood twins that he has, dealing with multiple women at the same time, and like they know about each other type of thing, where everybody is just one big family. And lastly, I wanted to point out the fact that Lira's Venus, which is in Leo, because that in and of itself does deal with her being attracted to rich men, wealthy men, men of means, right? It's conjoined to his North Node, and P is an Aquarius South Node, Leo North Node. That right there can point towards like him spoiling her with like gifts and treating her like this queen and so on and so forth. Them having like a very kind of like materialistic thing going. But, you know, him being an Aquarius South Node can make him particularly cold, very disloyal, very much emotionally just detached. And he comes from a lot of past life experiences where he was not able to feel things, you know. So that Leo North Node, I mean, number one, deals with him having all them damn kids. So does his Leo moon. But it can also point to where, like, in a way, like, number one, it can make him a cheater, like a grade A philanderer, which that's another indication of that, especially with her Venus conjoined to his North Node, like there being a lot of adultery in the situation. But then also, like, just him being the type of person who's really supposed to use his heart in this lifetime, and him being super uncomfortable showing emotion. And as a result, I mean, that Leo North Node on a shadow side can even be abusive as well, because these people don't know how to process their feelings and emotions and so on and so forth. So, I mean, either way you want to go, it's a chop. So I think both of them are telling the truth. Both of them. There's some there with both situations. So, yeah. That concludes this reading. I didn't want to make this video too long, but y'all drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the scenario. And yeah, make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And until the next video,